was I like as a student that you remember?
I remember you being very quiet, introverted. I could barely get a whisper from you. That's how it was. That's why I needed my Randall, your brother, who translated everything for me. But I remember how you guys used to come after school, draw on the chalkboard, and then you're. I remember you're always asking Randall, "Is this proportionate?" And he would correct you
Mm,
on the muscles and all that. I'm going, wow, it's amazing how you guys work together.
mhm,
Especially when you guys did the Star Wars airbrushing in Mrs. Wong's room.
mhm.
Back then, uh, Star Wars just came out, and you guys created all the characters, all with airbrushing, and it was a new skill that you guys had accomplished, through my independent studies. But man, you guys were very proficient. I admired all the work you did. But even after, I remember visiting you at the elementary school, and I'd be checking out what your students would be doing, and man, I'm amazed. I'm so proud of you. I really am. Imagine I met you back in summer of '76. We had to go youth camp, and my wife and I were told that we were hijacked in volunteering as camp counselors,
Mm.
and we went, and we're the winning cabin. I remember you guys were very cooperative. We had some really wonderful devotional time too.
Mm.
I remember. Yeah, you made a real impression on me. And then when you guys spend practically every day coming to my room and camping out, oh my, I really enjoyed our talks. You guys just blew me away, both of you. But I'm glad you continued on with arts, and the fact that you actually went into education. Yeah, that impressed me the most. Yeah, because you fit so well. Remember we went to I took you to lunch out by what was it?
I don't know, but you have a great memory.
Oh, for real? You don't remember?
No.
Grace's. Went to Grace's.
Mm.
We ate their chicken katsu. Yeah, then we talked story, and then I was disappointed that you were gonna give up cartooning in LA, and you were thinking of taking on that position of elementary art teacher.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
more. It's that was more out of desperation of trying to
yeah.
find something to do.
Because you
But
said,
it but
yeah,
was that that wasn't year round. So when I was
mhm.
working in animation, it
Oh,
just felt like work. And so I said, oh man, there must be something that has an ending. Oh, it's teaching, but man, teaching.
yeah,
So I thought I'd just try it,
yeah.
but it's been good.
I apologize. I actually discouraged you.
Oh,
Don't you
from
remember?
no, I don't remember.
We had that meeting, and we ate lunch, and I said, no, don't go into elementary art,
Mm,
continue on, move on, because your projects are very impressive, because you're not the only one that did cartooning and stuff. There was a kid that had did I forgot, he worked with Disney in Japan,
hmm.
and they came up with I forgot the name of that movie, but wow, I was really impressed with the work that they did.
Hmm.
Yeah, but cartooning is really competitive and tough to get in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's why I think I feel like I was just fortunate at that time, to be able to get in because I wasn't
yeah,
looking at it
yeah.
as an option, but it just
Mm.
kind of and I think that was more of a God thing than anything because
Praise
there,
God.
yeah,
Awesome.
um, just circumstances that
Yeah.
had happened.
Well, as far as you can remember, I've been praying for you all these years,
Oh, thank you.
because I know how gifted you are, and I know your talents are beyond what I can do. And I know when you looked at my program, when I was thinking about retiring, I said, Garrett, you'd be perfect for my program. And you said, but Mr. K, I cannot do what you can do. I don't know anything about screening. I don't know anything about photography. And I said, hey, make it your own. I remember telling you that. Make it your own program. I built my program on the skills that I was taught, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and the things that I could build, because a lot of things that we had were very primitive. I had to build my own light table. I had to create my own equipment,
Mm-hmm.
to recycle my clay and everything. So, you know, I really thought you'd be perfect. Being a one man art department, struggling along, I was told by the higher ups that maybe teaching isn't your profession, because I was the very one trying to fight for my students. I didn't want my students to feel like um, like art was just Mickey Mouse. You know, I wanted to build my program so that I can meet all their desires. I could give them a variety of things, skills that they never thought they could learn, so that they would appreciate art more. And that was all part of the package, that you could express your opinions on what you thought when you went to visit an art gallery, and what your impression was about what they've done. Because a lot of kids will come back from an art show and they would say, "Oh, I could do a better job than that." I would always hear that, and it challenged them. It gave them more a variety of ideas, and it was good. I think it was good program, and it was nice to have the seventh and eighth grade included in the program. And I designed it like a simpler basic art class,
Mm-hmm.
but it took off,
Mm-hmm.
and my classes started filling. And for a school this small, back then it was like maybe 500, 600 back then, and for them to have a full-time art teacher, that was crazy, you know. And it was all God.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought I'd ever become an art teacher in my life, honest to God. Because back in my days when I was at HBA, there were zero art classes, and I expressed my art skills by making posters, advertising um, our, uh, what was it called? Sweetheart Banquet, Junior Senior Banquet, and I make all these Peanuts cartoon, um, all on blueprint paper. That's how big my posters were, and I just plastered the whole school. And everybody thought, "Wow, you really are a good artist," And I thought, I'm just sketching. That's what I do in boring classes.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I take my notes. But I wasn't a strong student. I was. I barely. I'm amazed I graduated from HBA.
Same here.
And then years later, my dad told me, you know what Mrs. Wong said? Every time you were up for academic uh, pro, pro, uh, probation, and they'll have to decide, well, should we keep the student or should we not? And Mrs. Wong would always say, I really see God can use this man. I really can see him um, in God's work in the future. It was her vision.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't even my homeroom teacher. But Mr. William Russell, was my uh, homeroom teacher, and hate to say this, but we're the dumb class. I know, yeah. All the smart ones was in Mrs. Wong's room. And I could tell, I was the only Kaneshiro that couldn't make it, you know, in academics. And Kaneshiros were back then were known for sportsmanship, and I was not a sportsman.
Mm,
All my uncles tried, all my, even my dad tried bowling, um, baseball. Oh, but he's a lefty, so they had to go find a left-handed glove. You know, but I could never fit in. No matter how much I tried,
mm,
I could never fit in. But I thank God for the friends I had in my homeroom. You know, I think without them, I think I wouldn't have made it. But the one teacher I remember the most is Barbara Nelson. She took me in seventh, eighth grade English, and she thought I had some kind of worth. I was surprised because to this day I'm a bad speller. I can't spell for beans, but um, I remember her, you know, taking me under her wing. I missed my dad. He was always with Corps of Engineers. He was always on the emergency disaster teams whenever there was a typhoon attacking someplace like a base. He would be the first ones there to analyze all the damage and how much it would cost and all this kind of thing. Yeah, but I would, as part of my projects, I would write to him as a letter, you know, how I missed him, what am I doing at HBA and all that. And she kept me writing.
mhm.
She kept me going.
So what I remember about you is, what I'll always remember, I think, is that um, you seem to know everything about everything. Like, but you have to imagine that all I knew was to draw,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the greatest thing was to you're talking about that the independent studies in art had helped you, like as a teacher, kind of fill out your
Mm-hmm.
schedule, but actually it helped me
Mm-hmm.
because you have to imagine. So like you, I was um, a poor student and very very poor math student, I think. And um, I think so. You have to. So the way that I think about it is, if I weren't taking art, what would I be taking?
Oh.
You see the problem?
There wasn't that many electives.
Uh, None that I think would have I would have been as successful with. So the thing, I don't know if you remember, but so I'd taken all your classes. Then it's like, oh my gosh, like what am I gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
What? So I imagine that if I'd taken the other things, I would have been struggling. Even so, academically struggling, and then going into things even as electives that I would have been struggling at. Kind of like a fish out of water thing. So thank you. Really blessed to have had you. I don't know if you remember, but the things, it wasn't, they weren't insignificant. There were semester long things that were a contract with you.
Mm-hmm.
So the things that I did was, I think you may have had these styrofoam sheets. They're these kind of
Mm-hmm.
thin sheets,
Right.
and I made a Darth Vader helmet, Millennium,
Battlestar.
yeah,
Battlestar.
Millennium
Yeah.
Falcon, and a Imperial Cruiser out
Right.
of styrofoam. Sculpted them, and then for one semester, another semester I did the Conan mural,
Mm-hmm.
and in another semester did the Star Wars mural. So at least
Yeah.
those semester chunks
Mm-hmm.
were significant, and I kind of, when I think about it, it's like, oh man, if I didn't have that, you know,
But you always aced my independent classes.
yeah, but
I always
but
gave you
but
A's.
I think it was more like it was something that interested me,
Right.
and and I think that you didn't. I can't remember if we kind of shaped it together.
Hmm.
I think I just came to you. I'm
Ideas, right.
just gonna do this, and then but it was never like you saying, I don't think that's enough.
Hmm.
But it was always enough. I think challenging enough.
Yeah.
Didn't know what I was doing, so we're right now, like, we're involved with this thing called faith integration,
Hmm.
and they're trying. I mean, and I think the purpose is so that the students can see that it's not just academics like HBA
Yes.
where it could be and the focus. And I think for myself, it's more like the things that happen as a Christian teacher are more natural if it's not within my course classes. They could be done, but I think I'm not as skilled to kind of make sure that everything where the students will say like, oh, this is like a natural thing.
Hmm.
Because if it feels unnatural, like, then they're gonna feel like, oh, he's just doing it because he has to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
or if I said, okay, we're gonna do Christian artwork, uh, and then they're not Christian,
Yeah.
could be quite damaging. I
It is.
think,
I
in
think
my
so.
opinion. So actually, the things that are that I feel that I can be most effective in is within my advisor role, in homerooms and also like at camps.
Hmm.
That's where I think the greatest opportunity is. So for my homerooms, I I make sure that they that I kind of walk them through why they have to become a Christian and how to become a Christian. And I really take time with it because I want them to know that being a Christian is not just going to heaven or hell,
Right.
which I, which was
Hmm.
the thing that I thought about
Yeah.
most when I was in high school. But it's more like of what's happening throughout your life that God can help you
Hmm.
in your life to have the best life possible,
Yeah.
and also to be how to become a Christian, like
Hmm.
the because that I was also like confused about. I thought the only way you could do it would be like in church. I didn't know you could do it on your own.
Right.
To have the ability to not have someone with you,
Hmm.
walking you through a prayer. So the reason why I feel strongly about it is that if they go through HPA and if they don't, and if that's something that they don't know, then
Hmm.
that would be a shame.
Yeah.
Um, but as far as it, like, in the classroom, I shared a little bit with my advanced drawing and painting class at the end. Um, we're kind of we're kind of what is the word, charged with kind of tying in something, and so I thought I could do that, so
Hmm.
talk to them about like
Like a theme.
no, it's more like we have within our course descriptions, like talking about like how our like how our subject matter can be able to transform the world. There's a
Hmm.
possibility.
Hmm.
It it would be challenging
Yeah.
um, because not everything, if you don't have if you don't
Hmm.
have an audience, then how are you going to transform anyone?
Hmm.
So, but I was able to share with them and say that that though, you know, though things like while they're in the classroom, it may seem like that the class is devoid of anything like spiritual. They're like, I am a Christian, and the kind of like like the rationale that I just talked about right now, that
Right.
I feel like that there is a place for it, and I have to be, and I'm trying to be cautious with it because I don't want to do anything that's gonna turn kids off, you know.
Yeah.
Like, so in other words, if they sense like that I'm doing something and it's not, you know, if it feels like this is what the HB is telling him he has to do it, so it doesn't feel like natural. I worry about that. Um, but in homerooms, it feels very natural, and there's not anything that the school does that says, oh, you have to about you know, you have a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about for yourself?
Well, I've learned from the very beginning. Like I said, I didn't know everything. I didn't even get a chance to do student teaching, so I didn't finish my professional diploma.
Same here.
But uh, they called and says, would you be interested first in as a TA? I mean, not a TA, but a substitute. So I visited the class. I saw what they're doing, and I thought this could be even more. I really thought it could be something more. And then I realized through the years as I went, my students were the ones that taught me a lot about teaching and how to communicate. They had interesting ideas on how to make a project easier or simpler. Even the mood of the classroom. I started introducing a radio, playing music during when we have lab time. All I do is just explain this is what I expected of you by the end of the period. Bell rings at such and such a time. Okay, go to work. And I just turn up the volume. I had these big speakers in D1, and I play. Back then, I discovered Air One. I discovered um, K Love. Back then we could. It was hard to catch the stations in this valley, but I tried my best trying to hook up or wire some kind of a antenna, to catch these stations. And the days that I couldn't, I played CDs, DC Talk, a lot of these audio adrenaline music, and kids were just blown away. They said, "This is Christian?" They couldn't believe it. And I said, "Yes, this is Christian music." And every once in a while, the radio announcer will talk about there would be somebody sharing scripture. And so naturally, kids would come up and ask questions, spiritual questions. In fact, there were times where it would affect a student. I remember one girl uh, lost her grandpa. I took her out of class. She was just bawling away, and the class is going, and they know they got work to do, and we walked along the parking area, and I asked her what's the problem, and she shared with me how close she was with her grandpa and how she's just devastated. And I said, can we have a chance to pray? And I had a chance to pray with her. And then I told her, go to the restrooms, wash your face, because I'm sure you don't want to come back into the room with red eyes, like you've been crying your eyes out. And I think we established a lot of good, um, I guess, good relationships with students in regards to prayer. We had a chance to pray with them, and I always thought of kids. That was my thing. If I ever got a chance to become a teacher again, I want to be in that position where I'm going to be their pressure valve release. I want them to not think about homework. Mr. Kaneshiro does not believe in homework. Mr. Kaneshiro does not believe in exams. You know, what you create is what is going to be graded. And it's not because you are talented. It's not because you are gifted. I'm supposed to teach you how to mix colors. I'm going to be teaching you how does the human eye get to see color? Because white light is the presence of all color. It's just as it's broken down through the spectrum, where you can break it down and you can see all the different colors, you know. And how do we create white light? We have this paint called white, you see. But to make uh, white light, only God can create. You see, this is where Scripture can come in, you know, and especially when we're throwing on the potter's wheel,
Mm.
and we talk about that Scripture that says, you know, Lord, you are the potter, and I'm just the clay. Mold me and shape me. You see, we can talk about spiritual things in that way.
Mm.
So, a lot of instances where you can just come up with things like that, you know. And I must say, I've prayed with a lot of my students, and I've also prayed with a lot of my parents, who I had to have call them and have parent conference, you know, and the parent would be so distraught, you know, dealing with so much, and I said, um, "Can I pray for you? Can I pray for your child? Because this is not a time where we're supposed to cut you down or tear you down. We want you to build you up. We want to let you know that we're on your side, and we're trying our best, and we could use your help too. But both of us can use God's help." And we would pray. And I remember we used to have to write reports on what we talked about. So I would have to say, and we prayed together at the end, you know. And it was a privilege. It was all honest to God privilege. And I've always made mistakes. I've always made mistakes. There were some projects, it was just dumb to even start it, you know. And I also included a mechanical drawing in it too. When we created the 3D letters, you know, I remember doing that. I tried to incorporate some of the mechanical drawing skills that we've learned in my classes, you know. But a lot of this was applicable, you know. We tried to do an art club, you know, where we did holograms, creating images on just a piece of paper, you know, that's sensitive to white light. So, you know, a lot of times we could share this
Mm-hmm.
experiences, but a lot of it is just the atmosphere. When you come into my class, you know the radio's blasting, and Mr. K is almost about to dance, literally dance, because a lot of times I would just mouth the words because I love the music, I love the songs. It inspired me to move on. And all those lonely years of being by myself, I had to look to God. I had to go down on my knees. I was ready to quit, but it was God that told me, "Mark, do you trust me? How much do you trust me?" All through my life, when we were trying to get, when we were trying to, we were childless for 10 years. And that girl got prayed into this world when the doctors couldn't figure it out,
Mm.
you know, and my faith grew. My walk with the Lord grew. I remember leaving Kapolei at 4 in the morning just to beat traffic, get to McDonald's to get a sandwich, and head to school. Open the gate at 5 for the security guard, come all the way here, have my Bible reading, and then I walk through my room. And it's like a prayer walk, I guess. And I talk to the Lord. We would have conversations. And There were times when I would pass by one seat where this child was being a real humbug in my class, and I would sit in that seat and I'd pray. I would pray for that student many times. You know, you didn't. I had the same behavior problems to deal with and everything, and again, God directed me. God showed me the way. Um, a lot of things I didn't know what to do when it came to budgeting, how to justify costs. I had to show all my paperwork to the administration just so that they would approve my budgets, all that kind of stuff. My grading system, I always talked to Malcolm Harris.
Mm.
Yeah, he was a go-to guy with Story. Yeah, but HBA had really increased my faith. Yeah. When I left HBA, I felt like a failure
Mm.
because I thought I had barely passed, you know. But I did share with you that um, one of my students committed suicide 3 months before she graduated, and she was the top of her class, merit scholar and everything.
Oh,
All
yeah, of your
of my class,
of your class. Oh.
class of 70.
Oh.
And I thought, wow. And it was bad press for HBA, you know, and just the facilities were just very poor. And there was talk that they were going to shut down the school. And my famous last words, I would share this with my parents at open house. I would say, I was the one that said, I will never step foot on HBA property again. And here am I'm 30 plus years at HBA, still working. It's like there's no parole for me. But God made me eat my words. I was asked one time, when are you ever going to retire? And I told him, well, until Jesus comes. I'll be in the front of the room teaching, and he's going to take me up. You know, I never thought it would end. Every day was a joy. Every weekend was a joy. Come here every day, you know, every time I could, even on vacation. Even when I'm sick, I drive in. You know, I could have a fever. I'm driving in, and I'm setting up supplies, my lesson plans. I have all that all set. Every day when I'm absent, I would come in and I would set up, and then I'd go home and crash. Next morning, same thing. You know, I checked to see if, you know, paint was low. You know, like the primary colors are low. You got to refill, or the inks are low. Things like that. You need clay. You see, so I slept, ate, and actually many times I slept over here.
Mm.
Yeah, because I was too tired to drive. Yeah, but it was a joy. I would even dream of teaching. I'm in front of. I still dream that I'm teaching.
Mm.
Isn't that weird? After all these years, you know. And I wake up early in the morning, grading papers, correcting drawings, things like that. It really took a lot out of my life, but I invested a lot. And one thing I got out of it was I just loved my job so much. I love it so much. I never thought I'd ever retire. But when I started getting health issues, that's when I thought, wow, you know, gotta count the costs, you know, because I've got kids now. I have a family now I have to take care of. And that should be more my responsibility than continuing this job. It was my health. And a lot of it is because I think when we were young, we thought we'd never die. Nothing will harm us, right? So check out that book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Artist Beware.
Yeah.
And it'll open up your eyes.